Now back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show, which is presented to you by Power Planter Earth Augers, the official digging tool. To find the right size for your digging project, visit powerplanter.com. Now here are your hosts, Joey and Holly Baird.
Welcome back to the Wisconsin Vegetable Gardener Radio Show. We appreciate you hanging around. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for the week.
Julie Cerny is an educator, gardener, and aspiring homesteader living in New York's Hudson Valley. A longtime lover of food, flowers, trees, and the earth that grows them, she strives to live as an active member of the ecological systems that sustain her. Welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, thank you for taking time not only to educate Holly and myself, but all of our listeners across the country and all of our stations. We greatly appreciate your time. So, what was the inspiration for writing your book, The Little Gardener?
My inspiration for writing The Little Gardener was wanting children and their families to understand that they are a part of nature. I had worked in outdoor education, taking kids hiking and checking out what's growing in ponds and identifying trees and birds. And that was great, and I really saw kids lighting up inside, but there was something missing. Nature was still an other. I didn't really feel like they were connecting with nature in like a really deep and intimate way. And I had realized that the happiest and most alive I've ever felt has been when I've had a working relationship with the land I'm living on and being a part of those natural systems that sustain me. And gardening is such an easy way for us to experience our connection to nature on a regular basis because food is nature and nature is food. And so, I wanted to create a resource that could help big gardeners really cultivate young people or little gardeners as nature's keepers, as young people who had an understanding of ecological literacy and also who, cared for nature with a vigorous joy and a vigorous wonder, and also in a way where they understood that their lives really depended on the natural world.
Okay. Now, you talk about ecological literacy in your book. Can you explain what that is?
Sure. Ecological literacy or eco-literacy is having a basic understanding that the natural world and the ecological systems on it make all life possible. That's for humans, that's for birds, that's for any kind of plant. And one of my greatest passions is cultivating ecological literacy. I think gardening is one of the best ways to do that. Because you are, co-creating with nature, you realize that you're a part of it, and you see that your actions in your own garden can be for better or for worse, really, And for children, I think growing that understanding of ecological literacy, if they are tending their own plants. And especially with their families and making that a family activity, they're able to see, I took really good care of this plant, it's growing stronger, or, this plant's having a problem, let's try to take care of it. And understanding that your actions, that your own two hands can do really amazing things.
Creating a connection with the child and the plant or the child in the garden.
Exactly.
So why is it important to introduce really young kids to the natural world through gardening? We have guests on a lot of times over the years, and they said, well, I really didn't get into gardening until I was X years old. I didn't pay attention to it whenever I was with my mom or grandma. I didn't think it was important. Why is it important to introduce these young children into the world of gardening?
I think that, on top of the ecological literacy and really realizing that we're a part of nature, the garden is just an amazing classroom for people of any age, but especially for young children. And it's this great combination of the ultimate interdisciplinary classroom and also this spark of feeling this new part of yourself come alive. And I think one of the most important things we can do for kids is provide them with opportunities that make them feel more alive and make them feel passionate, make them feel like they can do real things, they can create real things that can have an impact on their family. And what I can't think of a better way than knowing that you have the ability to co-create with nature to create food, something that is sustaining for you and your family. It has a very visceral impact.
Well, it's very startling, and I'm sure there's a statistic out there. Many kids do not know where food comes from. They associate food with going to the grocery store. They don't have the connection or the education, or they've not been instructed or shown it grows out of the ground or it comes from a farm.
Exactly. And I worked on a handful of educational farms, and one of the, I finally got to see those kids lighting up and feeling like they were a part of nature when they watch a carrot come out of the ground. Carrots are a vegetable that, most kids like. It's a little bit sweet, it's crunchy, and to watch kids pull a carrot out of the ground and they're like, oh, and they get these big, wild eyes and it all starts to come together. And that's really when I became hooked and saying, okay, they really get it when it's food. Like I can't imagine a more intimate way to engage with nature than to actually grow it and eat it, take it into your own body.
Definitely. Now, a lot of people are gardening for the first time, especially with their families, with small children. How can families learn together to keep this going for years to come?
So I like that part of the book. The book really focuses on taking a mindful approach to a family creating and building a garden together and involving children in every step of the process, particularly setting intentions and setting goals. So I think it's important to set both short goals and long ones, so that the littlest little gardeners can see, okay, we set this goal in front of us and we were able to make it happen. Or maybe we weren't, and we can learn from that and try again, because we know there really are no mistakes in gardening. That mistakes are what it's really all about. So kind of embracing that uncertainty and moving forward. And then also creating some longer term goals where kids are able to learn and look forward to something year after year. And that's a way to get everybody in the family excited to all engage in creating those goals. And then also to keep a journal. There are these journals out there that are, 5 or 10 year journals where you can just write a little note each day. So, a great thing to do with kids is say, okay, it's June 8th. Let's see what was happening in the garden last year on June 8th or 2 years ago on June 8th. And that creates this continuity so that families can, keep coming back to that and hopefully keep going with it into the future.
And I do need to make aware that if people are gardening with their children, young children, or any age, it's not like PBS. Everything's not going to go perfectly, and it's going to take a much longer time with a child, but you have to have patience with them because they're learning. So it's not going to be boom, 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 we're done in 20 minutes. It may be an hour to do a 20-minute job.
Exactly. I think patience is the lesson in gardening. And you really have to embrace uncertainty and saying, that the wind blew and now my lettuce seeds are scattered everywhere and not in the perfect line next to the radishes, smile and let it be. And then, let the kids look and see, now it's an adventure to see where in the garden the lettuce is going to sprout up. So just keep rolling with it.
Definitely. Now, we've been gardening with our little niece and nephew basically since they were born or the first season that they could. And they love to be engaged. They love to help pull, the plants off the stalks and whatnot. Harvest. But I know a lot of people have a hard time with their children between the ages about 0 and 4, 0 and 5. to feel like they're going to be engaged in the garden. What are some great ways to engage the smaller, very younger children in the garden?
I think, as with all, everything in life, to kind of manage your expectations a little bit too, right? So even if your little one is, a wee babe up through any age, I still love to crush up aromatic herbs and smell them, but that's a great way to start the littlest little gardeners in engaging with a garden. So, and that's really simple. It's a 30-second thing, maybe showing a baby a leaf, crushing it up and letting a little one just smell it. That can be a first lesson. It doesn't have to be more than that. It could be touching a fuzzy leaf in the garden. It could be smelling a flower. So start small and don't think you need to go do something grandiose, especially with the littlest little gardeners. Some great aromatic plants are things like mint and rosemary and lemon balm. And those are things you can pick and, bring into your kitchen and kind of keep engaging with. And especially for the littlest gardeners that, maybe you don't want to be using a knife with them. They can just be tearing up herbs and adding it to, an iced tea or a sun tea type drink. And as they grow, you can, they can really be getting their hands into the soil. They can be watering. Even a 3-year-old can hold a little watering can and tot around and participate in this caretaking of the garden. Another thing is that for the littlest kids who are still developing those fine motor skills, it's easier to plant bigger seeds like corn or peas or beans. Even carrot seeds to this day still sometimes are difficult for me because they're so tiny. Save the seeds that are a little bit smaller for kids that have those motor skills developed a little bit more, the bigger little gardeners. And also plant some things that are going to draw in some life into the garden, like insects and butterflies. That'll be fun to just even sit and observe, even if, maybe a kid's not willing to dig his or her hands into the dirt just yet. But, watching the butterflies is a way to engage with your garden, too.
Well, some great tips. Well, Julie, we thank you for taking time out of your day to join Holly and myself and all of our listeners. How can we find more about you? How can we get a hold of your book?
You can find the book on Bookshop. It's also on Amazon. And even if you just Google it, it pops up in a lot of different places. You can find me on Facebook, The Little Gardener, and on Instagram at The Happy Little Gardener. That's all one word, The Happy Little Gardener. And you can find some different planting, instructional videos on planting, things like growing pea shoots, setting up your own windowsill garden, great activities if you're still stuck inside at this time.
Well, thank you, Julie. It's a great book for grandparents to get their grandkids or vice versa. And however, wherever that young one is, the book is a very good thing to have to reference. So, Julie, we thank you for taking time out of your day and informing all of us with educational information that we can all utilize in our garden.
Thank you so much, Joey. Thank you so much, Holly. It was a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more information, please visit thewisconsinvegetablegardener.com.